Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank each of the witnesses for your testimony. It's been powerful. Ms. Allison, in particular, I want to thank you for your courage coming and speaking up. I'm sorry about the loss of your mom. That's very difficult, and you're sharing the story of your young children and what they're going through is really powerful and moving, and so thank you for giving voice to their fears, their concerns. Thank you also for giving voice. There are other moms from East Palestine who are here with you and standing with you, and thank you for speaking for them as well. I wanted to ask you, we're still relatively early in the aftermath of the derailment, but at least to date, are you satisfied with the response you've seen, number one, from the federal government, and number two, from Norfolk Southern? Do you feel that the families who've been impacted by this have received what you need, have received the compensation you deserve? And if you're not satisfied, what more do you think is needed?
I would say there's always room for improvement, and this is something that, at least in our community, we never expected it to happen here. I would say that there has been some response, but specifically in regards to Norfolk Southern, I do think there are a lot of opportunities for improvements, at least from a lot of the community members. And I just shared my experience, but I do have testimonies from about 50 other residents with me today that I can share with you. I was reading those last night in my hotel room and just tears streaming down my face. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I'm a market researcher by trade, and so looking at all of this data in the aggregate, what I saw time and time again was people were saying essentially they feel like Norfolk Southern is just offering breadcrumbs throughout the community with funding. So right now, for people that don't feel safe at home, we did receive a flyer that said that you could leave the community for the time being if you wanted to reevacuate, and some people have chosen to do that. However, there's not clear guidelines of what is going to be paid for and what's not. And so when people go to the assistance center, some people are having a good experience, and then some people are really being questioned about, why do you feel like you should leave? Why do you feel like you need this money from us? And really feeling interrogated. And so that's really concerning, because I think a lot more data needs to come out. This testing that the EPA finally said that they're testing for dioxins, et cetera. That's really good, but there's so much data that needs to come out there. And again, a couple of things. One, you can make the data look however you want. And also, two, you can test or not test for whatever you want. So I think from a community perspective, we just want to make sure that everything is being tested that should be tested, and we're not really sure if that's being done or not. So I would say we're just really, everybody loves living in East Palestine, and we would like to stay there, but only if it's safe. And so there's a lot of confusion in the community about whether long-term, if it's a good choice to stay or not.
Well, I'm certain you mentioned the 50 statements you had, I'm certain that the chair would love to have you submit those statements for the record for the committee, and I'm sure members on both sides of the aisle would like to see those statements. One of the things you testified about is the concerns about the drop in home values. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that being a very real concern. You mentioned you've done work as a market researcher. Are there any data that are actually quantifying what the loss in home values has been? And if so, at this point, are the residents being offered any compensation? Is Norfolk Southern offering to make residents whole for the loss in home values? If a family decides that they want to move, are families able to sell their homes? Are there any buyers? Or, one of the things you said powerfully is, even if we want to leave, we can't leave. Is there any relief being offered now to say, if you make the decision to move your home and to move your family somewhere else, there is an avenue for you to sell your home and get a fair market price for it?
The short answer is, as of today, no. There is not clear-cut explanation or parameters of how you would do that. We've heard time and time again from Norfolk Southern that they're going to make it right, and that they're looking into some long-term health care monitoring and assistance and home value protection, but details of that plan have not been disclosed. to residents as of today.
I would encourage for you to let this committee know as it goes forward, if there are residents who are looking to move and can't sell their homes, this committee is very interested in making sure that the community of East Palestine is treated fairly, and that what you're going through, you receive what is just. And so I would invite you to provide this committee with the specifics so that we can expedite and facilitate making it right.
Thank you.
We are going to get to the second panel, but Senator Welch, did you have a question?
Just briefly, this is really very moving. You know, listening to Ms. Allison, small communities have something that's really very, very special. It's trust. You trust one another. And there's been a breach of trust here. One of the biggest beneficiaries of the trust in a community like yours, and we have many like yours in Vermont, one of the biggest beneficiaries is Norfolk Southern. They can roll their 2 to 3 mile trains through there without anybody asking a question, because you trust them to do the right thing. And they didn't do the right thing. And they had the opportunity to do the right thing, but they made other priorities, stock buybacks in the billions, shortening Cruz, doing the things that a mom would never do to take a shortcut to provide that security, like to your 7-year-old. And the heart of the discussion here is whether, as a result of the breach of trust by a very large and very powerful, very wealthy corporation, your government, and it's your government, should step in to restore justice to you and your fellow citizens. And that's what this hearing is about. Will government step up to provide physical, emotional, and health security as a result of this, just like it would if there was a military threat to our country, where government has got to be on the side of folks like you and your neighbors. So I'm very grateful to you, feel very badly at that breach of trust, because, you know, that trust gets you through hard times. You don't even complain because you know your neighbor's got your back. Well, you have to know the government's got your back. We admire you. This is going to go on for some time, as Governor DeWine said. But I think all of us in this legislation are going to do our level best to respond to you and your neighbors and what you're going through. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Welch. And again, thank you to our colleagues, to Governor DeWine, to Ms. Allison. Thank you for very compelling testimony. We'll now move to the second panel.